So it's been a while since I've spoken about commodity fragrances, and I've been meaning to do a review of the last and final Scent Space collection fragrances, the Book series. This is it right here. So Book is the last collection of Scent Space fragrances that I never got to review. I've reviewed every single other one of them, which is Gold, Milk, Paper, Moss, and Velvet. Book is here, and in this video I'm doing a top 10 commodity fragrances list for you, but sadly the Book series did not end up here in the main list. So I'm going to talk to you about the Book fragrances after the outro as a bonus option there, but today find out all about commodity fragrances in this top 10 list. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. We're talking about commodity fragrances. This is a collection of fragrances I first discovered back in 2013. In fact, I still have my first and original bottle of whiskey here, purchased back in 2013 when they were based out of Los Angeles. This is an American brand, if you guys didn't know. There was a little bit of a gap when they went out of business because the fragrances were sold at Sephora, and one day I walked in there, I think it was like early 2020, and I learned that they were completely out of business. But they came back at the end of 2020, somewhere around there, and now they're here, and they have the Scent Space collection of fragrances, which I just mentioned earlier. And these are fragrances that are in personal collection, which are fragrances that are personal. You wear them for yourself. Not many people are going to smell them. There's the expressive fragrances, which are all the original fragrances in their original concentrations. And then we also have the bold fragrances, where these are the ones that are the showstoppers. These are the ones that a lot of people around you will smell you because they'll be projecting more and have the sillage and the intensity and things like that. So I've got these fragrances here today in the top 10 list. I'm going to also let you know about some price increases. I just recently did a video on 5 different brands raising prices, and unfortunately commodity fragrances are also raising prices. Just to let you know, the 100 ml bottles are going up from $135 to $145. There's a different bunch of price increases with different series or collections. Like there's an exploration kit going from $42 to $46. The personal discovery kit seems like it's staying the same. Expressive discovery kit, same. The travel size 10 ml goes from $25 to $28. Travel trio $70 to $80. Archive discovery kit $36 to $38. And the Scent Space kit $12 to $14. So there is a price increase. But recently also, I should let you know, these fragrances in the Scent Space collection were all different priced. So the personal was priced lower, the expressive was a little higher, and the bold was the highest. But they did get priced all the same. So the fragrances are all priced the same now, which makes it a lot easier to figure out these fragrances and you know, take advantage of them. So we're going to go ahead and get started off with the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about, and that is Rain, this one right here. So Rain is exactly that. It's a rain fragrance. It really smells like rain, and I feel like there's ozonic notes in here, and they mention a dewy green accord, which ozonic, coming from perhaps violet leaves, has a bit of a greenness, but also they mention lotus blossom here. So the lotus blossom is a flower that's kind of wet and on the water, so it has a kind of watery effect here. In the end, it's a bit citrusy, aromatic with the lemon verbena. Freesia is in here as well. Musk and bergamot. So there's some sweetness in there. There's some floral touches, but it wears like rain, but mostly rain that's raining on flowers and things like that, because you're smelling this kind of like faint floral touch, a bit green, a bit ozonic, and then also you're smelling the flowers and some citrusy touches in the air as well. Don't forget the musk in here as well. It's a very clean fragrance. So we're starting off at number 10 with Rain. Do let me know if you know this house. What are your favorite fragrances? Did you know that it was an American house? They do sell the fragrances at Sephora, and I do have a discount code for these fragrances. It's in the info box. Take advantage of any purchases that you're going to do now ASAP, because the prices will go up very, very soon. This next fragrance is one called Bergamot, this one right here. So Bergamot is just that. It's focusing on the bergamot. And out of a lot of different bergamot fragrances that I have in my collection, this one to me is the woodiest of bergamot fragrance. And I feel like it's almost balanced out with all the bergamot with vetiver, because for me there's a grassy effect here. I feel like it's coming from that vetiver note. And as I was saying, I feel like it's a balance of both the bergamot and the vetiver. But along the way you get some other citruses, some aromatic touches, definitely some light floral touches as well. And here a little bit of ozonic effect in here as well with the violet leaves. But under there, when it's drying down, there's definitely a muskiness, some earthy patchouli as well. I think it's a really great bergamot fragrance, but I like my bergamot fragrances a little juicier, and this one, because it has that, overdose of vetiver here, I don't get the juicy effect that I sometimes crave in citrus fragrances. So bergamot is here at number 9. Then we're going to the fragrance Velvet, and Velvet does come in the Scent Space collection, and you have the option of getting the personal or the expressive or the bold. And of course I like my fragrances bold, so I'm going to go with the bold here. This is Velvet Plus, which is the bold series. So basically, if you're a fan of Velvet, it's definitely the most intense version. If you like light fragrances, check out the personal fragrances. The light fragrances would be anything in the white bottles, and then the bold would have the kind of copper colored writing on the fragrances, and they'll have the plus sign as well. This to me is kind of a vanillic fragrance in that it has some kind of leathery touches as well, and a bit of nuttiness from almonds. There's some saffron here contributing to a bit of aromatic herbal touch, or spicy touch I should say, with some leatheriness. But for me, this version has been made into a bit of smoky, so there's definitely like a smoky undertone here, and it's intensified in that it is really intense compared to the expressive, and a lot more intense compared to the personal. But there's a few here that I've gone with the personal and the expressive, because I like the way those smell more than let's say the bold. But with this fragrance, I would prefer the bold, because these kind of fragrances, I like them to be intense, and vanillas and ambers and things like that, I do appreciate when they're really in your face and strong. So Velvet in the bold collection is at number 8. And then at number 7, we've got Gin. So this is an ice cold fragrance, but in comparison to some other juniper berry focused fragrances, this one does have some sweetness, but in the end you're still dealing with that kind of ice cold, sharp and metallic crispness that comes with juniper note in fragrances. And this one does smell a bit like gin, like you're drinking like a gin tonic, because it has some sweetness and a bit of citrusy touch in there as well. And for me, this smells really authentic to like a sweet take on a gin tonic, with the sweet tonic that's usually, put into the gin tonic. But this is juniper berry with patchouli. There's some smoky oak, grapefruit juice, lime, musk, ginger leaf, freesia, and labdanum. It's a great cooling fragrance, I should say. If you like the idea of wearing ice cold fragrances in the warm, hot summer days that are humid and things like that, this is the kind of fragrance I highly recommend, because it's very refreshing. It's very cooling, and again, it has that kind of sharp ice metallic touch to it because of the juniper note that's in this. So this is Gin from Commodity. That is at number 7. And then we're going with the Scent Space Collection fragrances Gold. And once again, I'm going with Gold Plus. So Gold Plus, again, it's taking the original expressive gold. Remember, all the fragrances were expressive until some of them moved into the Scent Space collection, and then they created the bold, which is the copper colored writing with the plus sign, and then they also created the personal collection, which is the white labels, I should say, with the minus sign. So I am going with the bold because I really enjoy my intense fragrances, especially vanillic fragrances and things like that. But some of you might like a lighter take on this fragrance. You can definitely take advantage of checking those out. This version has been amplified with saffron, oakmoss, vanilla, patchouli, and nutmeg. The original expressive version is a really delicious spicy vanilla. Here they've taken it into a very intense direction, boosted it up with the saffron, contributes to a bit leather. Oakmoss intensifies it, adds woody kind of notes in there. And then the patchouli and nutmeg. The patchouli is really intense and earthy, and patchouli and vanilla together are really a great combination. And then this one has that nutmeg as well. It's a very distinct spice that's not necessarily uber holiday-ish vibe like cinnamon or cloves, but it has this kind of unique spiciness that works well with the gold. So gold plus in the bold version is at number 6 from commodity. So at number 5, I'm going with paper in the personal version. This version is really great. You know, I'm a fan of molecular fragrances like ISOE Super in Molecule 1 and things like that. This to me wears like that. It is similar to that kind of style, and in the personal it's even more in comparison to the paper in the expressive, which is in the plain original collection, and then also the bold, which is the plus. This version I really like because it's so personal, it's so minimalistic. It's just ISOE Super, which is basically cedar like smell with some light sandalwoody touches, and this one also has some amber. But it wears great if I want something minimalistic, something that won't intrude with others, people around me that are kind of sensitive to fragrances. This is what I would wear. This also is a great layering tool. You could use this to spray down, let it dry, and then spray some other fragrance on top of it, especially if you're having issues with some fragrances not lasting and things like that. But on its own, it's very nice. It's very personal. It's musky and it's woody. And then, of course, it's ambery. I really like the paper minus. And as you can see, I've used quite a bit of this one because I really love it. It goes down pretty easy because it's personal. It's very, it's a skin scent. And I like these kind of fragrances when I'm really burnt out on fragrances. But I want something, I want a little smell, but I don't want to be overwhelmed with a lot of smell, if that makes sense. So this is a really great fragrance, paper minus, or the personal version. Again, if you're a fan of Molecule 1 and things like that, you've got to get your nose on that particular fragrance because I really highly recommend it. So next, moving on to, once again, another Scent Space collection fragrance. This time we're going with Milk in the original, in the expressive. So Milk, I believe, is the first fragrance I reviewed. I think it was Paper that I first reviewed, and then I reviewed the Milk series in the Scent Space collection. And I couldn't decide which version of Milk I wanted to go with because I really like all three of them. Every single one of the Milk fragrances is great, and I like the variety. I want the minus, the personal, if I want something more faint. If I want something not too intense, I would go with the original. If I want something uber intense, I would go with the bold, with the kind of copper colored writing with the plus sign. But right now I'm going to discuss the original, the expressive. It's basically cold milk, marshmallow, mahogany wood, and tonka beans. It's got this very cozy quality. All three of them do. But I feel like the bold is intensified. That kind of loses its, comforting coziness, relaxing, smooth kind of characteristic that the original Milk and expressive or the personal has. But sometimes you want something kind of gourmandish in the intense of the bold, so you would go with that. But I really love all three of them. They're really, really great. If you like lactonic fragrances, woody, kind of milky, creamy, fluffy, kind of marshmallowy fragrances, the Milk series is really, really great. I really love it. So it's Milk in the expressive version from Commodity. Check that out if you don't know it. And then number 3, we're going with the Moss, the Scent Space collection. Moss is a great green fragrance. Really think it's a great green fragrance, but for me, it's a bit confusing, and they're using moss or oak moss, but I think what the star note in these 3 fragrances is Petitgrain. For me, that note stands out. Petitgrain is the bitter orange tree's green leaves. So it's a bit woody, it's earthy, bitter, green, and uber citrusy. And here, it's kind of the star note for me. And in the plus, it's really intensified, and you really smell like a citrus tree. But it's bergamot with petitgrain, juniper berries, violet, elemi, amber, and patchouli. Once again, the collection is great. This series is really great. I think I could go with either one, because I was originally used to the expressive, and I really enjoyed that. And then with the personal in the white bottle, in the white label, that is even lighter. You can, not like be overwhelmed. Sometimes sometimes in the summertime you want something lighter and you want a citrus, and that's what I would pull for. Like, you don't want to be weighed down with a lot of scent, but you want something. So the entire collection of 3 fragrances is great, but I am going with the plus because I like my intense fragrances, and I live in San Francisco and we don't have really intense heat here, so I can wear really heavy fragrances any time of the year. All right, so that is at number 3, and then moving on to number 2. It is NECTAR, this one right here. I can't believe how good NECTAR is. I almost put it at number 1, but I have another fragrance I'm going to talk to you about at number 1. Nectar is super delicious. Such a great fragrance. It does remind me of Jo Malone's Orange Blossom, but this is a lot juicier, a lot citrusier, whereas Jo Malone's Orange Blossom utilizes orange blossom and citrus notes. Here, it's just made it into more of a, juicy and drippy kind of an experience, where you've got juicy pomelo, neroli, orange blossom, honeysuckle, Italian tangerine, musk, bergamot, liquid musk, vetiver, and cedarwood. It's so good. If you like the idea of citrus flowers with the juicy citruses and more like grapefruit and tangerine rather than orange and lemon, oh, definitely go with this one. This is so good. Perfect summer fragrance. Very refreshing, cooling, uplifting. All of that stuff comes to mind with that one because it's a very bright, happy fragrance. And the kind of notes they use are bright and happy. So I'd go with that. And then the number 1 fragrance I'm going with is what I bought originally when it was called Whiskey. This is it right here. This was the first fragrance I purchased from Commodity, which is now called this. Not necessarily whiskey, but it's the same fragrance. They had to change the name. I don't know if it's because of trademark and copyright and things like that. This fragrance was once gone, and then it came back as this. And it is a really great boozy fragrance that you can wear that's not really heavy. I really love it. It's the first fragrance I bought after I got the sample set from this house and, went through all their samples. In fact, I did a video on the whole sample smelling on camera a long time ago, like 10 years ago on my previous YouTube channel. But I'm going with this at number 1 because I really like the smell. It brings back memories of 10 years ago when I was first starting out doing YouTube reviews. So it's American Oak, Lavender with Davana, Ambergris, Mahogany, Vanilla, Patchouli, Violet, Black Currant, Jammy Plums, Cedarwood, and Saffron. So this to me is nice balance of booziness and woods. So just basically, it's not necessarily uber boozy. It's not going to smell like something like Creation E from Raja because that's like really uber boozy or other boozy fragrances. This has a nice booziness, but it also has nice aromatics and also spices and woods along with it. So it's nicely balanced. So whiskey, or whatever you want to call it now, is at number 1. And that's the top 10 list for you guys. Let me know if you're a fan of these fragrances and what your thoughts are on these fragrances. Let me know if you're a fan of the Scent Space collection fragrances from Commodity. And also, keep in mind, price increase. I took this off of their website. So the prices are increasing in a couple days. So take advantage of getting your fragrances now. And don't forget to use my 10% off discount code, which is in the info box. You can use it now in addition to saving on the price increase, and also take 10% off of the fragrances over at Commodity. But do let me know your favorite fragrances from Commodity. I'd like to find out what they are. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So as I was saying earlier, I left the book series of Scent Space collection fragrances here as a bonus. I had never reviewed this series of fragrances. I reviewed every other Scent Space collection fragrances from Commodity. But the reason this didn't make the top 10 list is because I speak about a fragrance, one of the fragrances that I'm not a big fan of, Santal 33, and this series does remind me of that series of that fragrance. So unfortunately, it didn't make the top 10 list, but I am going to talk about it here to let you know about the differences with these 3 fragrances. We're going to smell on camera, but a little bit about the Scent Space collection once again. Remember, the white bottle is the personal fragrance. And personal fragrances are the personal fragrances, meaning it's personal. So somebody has to get really close to you to smell you. You're not going to leave a trail. It's not going to project heavily off of you. So those are the ones that people like, these kind of fragrances once in a while. You might work in an environment or a place where people are very sensitive to fragrances. So this is the kind of fragrance you pull for. Or in general, you just want something light, and that's what you would go for. The expressive fragrance is between the bold and the personal. Let's see if I can get this focused. I'm having an issue. So this is basically the original fragrance. A lot of these Scent Space collection fragrances came as the expressive fragrance. In fact, this fragrance, Whiskey, is still an expressive fragrance only. Nectar is still an expressive fragrance only. So you can only get that in one format. I'm hoping Nectar and Whiskey does become a scent-based collection fragrance because I really like those two. But that's what this is. So it's in between the personal and, of course, bold. And then the bold is the one that projects the most, the one that has the trail. A lot of people are going to smell it off of you because your fragrance is much stronger and things like that. So that's what the differences are between the collection of, fragrances between personal, expressive, and bold. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start off with the personal of Book, which has the minus sign, as you can see right there. This has notes of bergamot with black tea, cedarwood, skin musks, amyris, and sandalwood. So I've tested these out on skin. I'm going to go ahead and smell them on camera for you. But honestly, I should say, out of all three of them, the personal is my favorite, because it's the least that smells like Santal 33. I just never have been a fan of it. And sometimes I might like the smell, but most of the time I don't like that fragrance. And so this series does remind me a lot of Santal 33 because of the sandalwood in it. And so it was not a love for me. But the personal is actually really great. Upon initial spray, you do get that reminder of Santal 33. Then it disappears, becomes musky and a bit citrusy, but definitely very woody. And the tea comes in as well. It just becomes a very nice scent. So I would go with the minus or the personal in this series because I enjoy it. But be warned, if you're not a fan of the Santal 33 smell, you're probably not going to like it. But out of all three of them, I think the least that smells like Santal 33 is the personal. Next, we've got Book in the expressive. This has been around for a while. It's featuring notes of eucalyptus, bergamot, violet, cedarwood, sandalwood, amyris, musk, amber, and vetiver. So this is the original fragrance, as I was saying. These came in bottles like this at one time, and they were moved into the scent-based collection. And this to me smells just like Santal 33, if not a little different. So it reminds me too much of it, and so I'm not really a fan of that collection of fragrances. I know there's a ton of people that are, fans of that fragrance. In fact, it happens to be Le Labo's most popular fragrance. So do you fall into the list of fans or not fans of Santal 33? Do let me know, because the ones that are going to like Santal 33 are going to like, or the ones that like Santal 33 are going to like this series of fragrances from Commodity. And then the idea of pickle juice comes a lot. People mention when they're talking about Santal 33 as comments on the channel, they'll write down pickle juice. Does that smell like pickle juice to you guys? And then finally, Book Plus, or the bold, is intense take on the Santal 33 smell with eucalyptus once again, and violet, cedarwood, sandalwood, velvet musk, and smoke. And then if they've added that smokiness here with this one, and they've added kind of a more intense and robust kind of a backbone to this, so it kind of comes off stronger than the expressive and much stronger than the personal. But in the end, you still get the same kind of smell, that reminder of Santal 33. So that's my thoughts on this collection. Sadly, it's not my favorite. It's just a bummer that it reminds me too much of Santal 33, but I wanted to, talk about it at least here in the bonus section for you guys. But some of you out there like Santal 33. Let me know if you've compared this to Santal 33 and what you think. And again, I can totally tolerate the personal version of Book. I think it smells great. Once the initial blast comes and disappears, everything else smells really wonderful with that one. So that one I can put to use for sure. But the rest of them, they're just not for me. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Stay tuned for another video tomorrow. Have a good one. Goodbye.